Well, hello and welcome to Rajat TV. You're watching The Big Picture with the host Rajat Kain. Well, in this episode, we'll talk about latest decision by the centre on giving thrust to mother tongue, or to say regional language in technical education, especially in engineering courses from the next academic year. A few IITs and NITs are being shortlisted for the same. The decision to teach in regional language was taken at a high-level meeting chaired by Union Minister for Education, Mr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, last month. Well, in the decision announced, the ministry said that this move is in line with new education policy, or the NEP 2020, which promotes regional language as a mode of delivering education. So what exactly is this move? To discuss further on this, we are joined with three extremely eminent personalities from the field of education. Professor Pramod Kumar Jain, Director IIT BHU. Well, many thanks for joining us. Professor M. Jagadesh Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Many thanks for joining us, sir. And Dr. Shiv Govind, Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Hyderabad. Well, extremely thank you for three of us for joining us, sir. Let me start with you, Mr. Jagdish Kumar. Sir, well, the government says this move is with line with new education policy. Now, how do you see this move of having technical education, or to say the technical syllabus being taught in mother tongue? Few IITs and NITs are already being selected for this. Sir, first words from you.
Right. Let me set the context first. There is no doubt that English has become a preferable language for scientific communication in the international context. And, whatever discussion that we do, it should be based on evidence. It should be based on research data, and it should not be driven by emotions or any other reasons. Having said that, the discussion on English medium instruction, or EMI, is not a new discussion. It has been there for several decades, for last 4 or 5 decades. And especially the English medium instruction has become, a major issue in countries which are part of the global south. For example, large part of Asia, Central America, South America, Africa, and Middle East, barring, of course, Israel. Now, the point is that there is growing research evidence which shows that if the students are taught in their mother tongue or the regional language, their ability to understand the concepts is much better. And let me give you one example before I come to the IITs or our own institutes. A very recent study which was carried out in Hong Kong, it has very clearly shown that learning physics concepts in home language led to a very advanced level of conceptual understanding. And in South Africa, recently a study was conducted, and the data has very clearly shown that if the students are taught the science concepts or engineering concepts in their own mother tongue, they have become more confident about expressing their ideas about science or engineering. And if you come to even smaller countries like Lebanon, where students have expressed a very clear preference for being taught in their mother tongue rather than in English. Now, there is growing evidence which shows that people become more creative. Students will become more creative and innovative if they are taught in their own mother tongue. Therefore, what the national education policy has suggested, and also the recent decision taken by the government to introduce the regional language or the mother tongue in the engineering education, I think it was long due, and I'm very glad that these steps are now taken in our higher education.
Well, before I open up discussions to two other panelists, let me ask you this question in conjunction to what you elucidated about other countries and their stress on learning on their own vernaculars and their own mother tongues. So have you also considered any research of that kind, especially in India and vis-a-vis the technical institute that we are opened up for imparting education or technical education in mother tongue?
See, having taught in IIT system for several decades, I have found myself that when we communicate in mixed language, for example, Hindi and English in the classroom, especially those students who come from rural backgrounds, they feel very, very comfortable,
Okay.
right? That is one. The other issue is that, in every IIT at the end of first or second semester, we found that a large number of students, anywhere close to 100 or 150 in IIT Delhi, for example, a few years ago, they fail in basic subjects such as maths, physics, and chemistry. Now, why does this happen? It is not because they are any less creative. It is because they come from rural backgrounds. They might have studied in their own mother tongue, and when they
Okay.
come to IIT, they have to grasp not only the conceptual understanding of the subject, but also they have to master the English language. So that is where the problem comes. And I'm sure, especially for those students who come from the rural and village backgrounds,
Right.
studying in their own mother tongue will enhance their confidence to do well. So, therefore,
Right.
I definitely feel that we should start with the mixed mode of teaching or offer the option of studying in their regional language in the higher educational institutes if we want to make our students more creative and innovative.
Right. Well, many thanks for the opening remarks, Professor Jagadish Kumar. Let me come to you, Professor Shiv Govind Singh ji. Now, sir, let me understand here. Will this move by the government, is it only to cater towards the regional population, or is there the stress on mother tongue, as that has also been emphasized by no less than the chairperson of Rajya Sabha and Honorable Vice President of India? So is it a larger picture to promote Indian languages in the curriculum as well?
I agree. The intent may be to encourage all the vernacular language. As Professor Jagdish Kumar rightly pointed out, some of the research has been done which actually help to understand even in science. I can tell you my personal example. So when I understand some subject, I used to say to my parents, if I understand I can understand and able to explain it in Hindi, then I say, aha, I understand it. If I'm not able to understand it, then I used to explain in English. So whenever I understand anything, I able to explain in my own language. So that is very important. To be creative, you need to be in your own language. Unfortunately, the thing which hinders all of us is that we don't have the resources,
Right.
especially in a technical education. So yeah, so there is a strong need to build up the resources to encourage this kind of learning. Otherwise, there will be always a lag.
Right. Let me come to you, Professor Pramod Kumar. Sorry for keep you waiting here. Sir, let me just start from the point here. So, having taught the syllabus, especially the technical education in local language, in vernacular mother tongue, as we say, what are you seeing some challenges? Like, do you have to train not just the students here, but also the faculty members, so that they are slick in the regional language or the mother tongue, as to say, of in the particular institute?
If I take forward the point put forward by Professor Jagdish Kumar and Professor Singh, I think faculty members may take up this challenge. Particularly if I look at the, let us say, first year students or second year students in most of the IITs or NITs, many of them do come from the rural background. And many component of the teaching, for example, say the laboratory component, and sometimes the tutorial classes are also held in sometime Hindi or sometime like that. Purpose of doing that is to make that student do understand the concepts and things like that. Plus, the laboratory staff in most of the technical institutions are the local people, and they may not be able to communicate in English with the students. So that component is already happening in Hindi.
Okay.
And I think our purpose when we talk about teaching in bilingual or in mother tongue should be to make sure that students do understand the basic concepts of the subject. Plus, side by side, they should be able to express themselves in the examination as well as in other, places. What
Right.
happens sometimes if a student who come from the rural background and we teach him or her purely in English, then at the end of the semester or at the end of the year, sometime as said by Professor Jagadish Kumar, they are not able to, pass in the subjects. Though they are not poor in that subject, but they are not able to express themselves.
Right.
Another
Right.
important thing, particularly at the first year level, I would like to mention here, in most of the IITs and NITs, there is a provision of branch change after first year. And if these students are not able to express themselves, if they are not able to score well, then they are deprived of that option. But you can say, because they do not perform well and they are not able to, get good marks and they are not able to change their branches. So my thing is that we should try this option, and sometime I think it should be in a friendly manner. Sometimes teachers may have to adopt such kind of teaching methodologies where they can teach them in English or Hindi or in bilingual or whatever language they adopt. So objective
Right.
should be to ensure that they understand the things and they express all the concepts they have learned properly in the examination and at other places.
Right, right, right. Professor Jagdish Kumar, let me just take this discussion next level forward. So, like so far, we have discussed about. I know it's a massive, fairly vast debate about like how mother tongue could be used effectively in training students, and especially in technical education. Now, let's jump 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead once students complete the courses, especially engineering courses or other technical courses. Will stress perhaps only on mother tongue, would it have any hindrance when they go out in industry? And well, so far the industry standards has been fairly English to say off. Will that be any hindrance for them, for students? Sir, it's just a
Let me,
hypothesis, just a hypothesis.
right. Let me put a couple of points before you. Take, for example, Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, the auto industry is very, very well advanced. It's a highly industrialized state. Now, the state universities in Tamil Nadu, if they offer their engineering program in Tamil, that should be absolutely fine, because the engineers who come out of these engineering colleges, they can then be employed in the auto industry in Tamil Nadu, and then they can interact very well with the floor level workers who speak only Tamil. So
Right.
the first thing that we can do is we can encourage the state universities to introduce the engineering programs in their local language. You know, almost every district is going to have a university sometime or later. Now, only the students who are within that district will come and study in that university. Therefore, there is a strong point to make the medium of instruction in that local language. Now, having said that, we are not against English. This is something that people are misunderstanding and miscommunicating. English, of course, is required as a tool of communication at different contexts. So, therefore, these students will also study English as a tool to communicate. So,
Right.
there is a
Right.
major difference between using English as a tool to communicate, using English as a medium of instruction. All that we are saying is that let the medium of instruction be in the local language, and at the same time, the students have to become proficient in using English as a medium of communication. So if you do that, a student who is educated in, say, Nagaland, or a student who is educated in Gujarat or somewhere in Kerala, they are ready to work in any multinational company, either in India or across the globe. So I absolutely don't see any problem as long as we make our students more creative by educating them in their mother tongue, and then making them learn English as a tool to communicate, equipping them to communicate with the people beyond their own local place. I think this will enable the students to become agents of social transformation, not just only in our country, but anywhere on the globe.
Right. Well, let me come to you, Professor Shiv Govind Singh. As you in your answer, you mentioned about the creativity and how the lessons or education in mother tongue will enhance creative latitude of students. Now, do you see this move? Currently, it's just confined to 2 institutions, just few IITs and NITs from the next academic year. So, Professor Shiv Govind Singh, do you see the scope of this move expanding further and perhaps in some other courses as well? Or will it, or at the outset, do you see it's only the technical education that requires to be taught in mother tongue?
I don't believe that only technical education should be in mother tongue. It should be all other things should be in their mother tongue. So, but only thing, can you provide the resources? So, to start with the few institute, I think this is a right approach, because we need to understand what is lacuna before going to achieve the larger goal. Once you understand each and each problem and step by step, then it's a good idea to go further level with the enhancement of those resources improvement. As rightly mentioned by both of the eminent professor, that end of the day, English is important, because the Nagaland people may not be having all the technical requirement completed there. They have to work come to Tamil Nadu.
Right.
So language of science is same, right? Language of science is not different. Only language of communication is different. So English can be, or Hindi can be, or some other thing can be language of communication, but science is same. So as far as understanding of science is concerned, if you understand your language, it is very easy to communicate in any other language. That is my stand on this.
Right. Professor Jain, I'll just, my question to you is fairly similar, like as we were talking about the scope of this move. So do you see it confined to only technical education right now? And if we expand further, so what are the possible challenges for expanding this move of government of imparting education or higher education in mother tongue or vernacular?
Yeah, so I can see immediately 2-3 problems.
No, sir, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. My question was to Professor Pramod Kumar Jain. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we have to start, technical education in bilingual or in mother language, yes, there are few challenges, of course, which we have to basically face, and we have to convert them to the opportunities as well. One of them is to develop the academic material, particularly sometimes the books, sometimes the lecture contents or something like that, because you know that our faculty members are teaching in English for so long, so sometimes it may be a bit of challenge to them to translate and to convert that into the mother tongue or something, or Hindi language, whatever you say. So that would be one of the challenge. But I think if you give this as an offer to the faculty members, many of the faculty members would really accept this challenge, and they will come out, out of their English mindset or something, and they would be ready. In fact, we have done a kind of informal discussion in our institution, and I'm happy to share here with that many of the faculty members are ready to take up this challenge. That is one. Second, I think is, teaching is one part, of course. Second is the jobs, as Professor Jagadish Kumar already, said about the job opportunities and things like that.
Yes.
And a component that sometimes may pinch the faculty members is the research component, because, faculty members are supposed to research and consultancy, things like that also. So if there are, sufficient avenues for them to publish their research output in mother tongue or in Hindi or in any other regional language, that will add further, incentives to them. For example, say take the case of Japan or any other country. They do have their many reputed journals and the conference proceedings where the papers are published only in Japanese.
Right.
They are teaching in Japanese, plus they are publishing their research output in the Japanese, and the companies are also, preferring people, with Japanese proficiency and things like that.
Right.
Companies look for the talent basically. Language gives them the expression power, but otherwise, if you are talented, you can find a good job in any of the good company.
Right. Dr. Shiv Govind, yeah, sorry, sir. I mean, you were saying you're adding a couple of points to the query. Please go ahead, please.
Okay, so actually, both the point is actually added by Professor Jain already. So
No, you can still add a couple of points, sir.
yeah, so like I can say one, two, three things here because faculty is something which I feel, for example, it is easy for somebody from North India and they can teach in Hindi. But I'm in Hyderabad, right? And here vernacular language is Telugu. So
Right.
I know only few words in Telugu right now. Yeah, so it's not easy for me to teach it. So being IIT being a pan India attraction. So I'm not sure that the biggest hurdle I can see is the like faculty to use the vernacular language to teach it. So book can be done. For example, Professor Jagadish Kumar is a fantastic professor in device physics. He can probably spend some time and he can write a book in device physics in Hindi or in Telugu. I think sir is from this land, so he can write a book in that. Writing a book is possible, probably with the effort. Of course, it cannot be done so easy. It requires lots of effort, but like teaching is I think is going to be the Herculean task to convert in reality. All this idea can be more difficult probably the teaching than the anything else.
Right.
So that is my point. Yeah.
Right. Well, Professor Jagdish Kumar, as we wrap up the show, I want to have a last word from you, sir. Since you are the senior most in the panel here, sir, again, like as we say, like all these, the two younger professors, they mentioned and they talked about the challenges. Now, as a vice chancellor of a university, and hypothetically, if you think that we expand the scope of this move to other non-technical courses as well, now how will you take this forward as a head of an institution, sir, given the challenges along with it?
Right. 2 points. Well, at JNU, we have already formed an apex committee to look at the possibility of starting some of the programs in the local language, right?
So which means Hindi or you'll have other North Indian languages? Okay. Right.
Well, to begin with Hindi. But looking at the challenges, especially in national institutes where students will come from across India, in 1925, writing in Young India, Mahatma Gandhi said, by teaching our students in a language which is totally foreign to them, we are making our kids, foreigners in their own country. I think it's high time that we focus on our regional languages. We develop and preserve our regional languages. And Mahatma Gandhi also said, please don't wait for syllabus and curriculum to be prepared, for books to come and so on. From next year onwards, you introduce the education in the regional language and everything will follow the line. So I think, yes, I agree that it's a challenge, but we should take it as an opportunity. And also, please remember, as part of the national education policy, there is also a proposal to establish a national level institute for translation. So the technical terms have to be translated and several books which are in English have to be translated. So this work is already, in pipeline. It is very high time. It is the right time for the educational institutes to look at this aspect and take the first step. Don't wait for anybody to nudge. As educational institutes, it's our responsibility to train our students to become more creative and innovative. And if our mother tongue helps in doing that, we should be the first to do that.
Right. So we'll leave it that. Mr. Jagdish Kumar, thanks. Extremely thankful to you for joining us. And thanks to you, Professor Shiv Govind and Professor Pramod Kumar Jain. Thanks a lot. And of course, so clearly this is a move that is being initially to be tested from the next academic year in two institutions, and it has to be seen how that shapes our education policy further. Well, thanks for joining and watching Big Picture on Rajya Sabha TV.